Trust often feels like a vague emotional atmosphere between two people, but in reality, it functions as a rigid structural system. It is the load-bearing architecture that holds human relationships safely above ground. This diagram isolates 5 vertical pillars that bear the weight of any healthy connection: honesty, transparency, accountability, ethics, and shared alliance. We take this engineering for granted until the structure sustains a severe boundary violation. Infidelity, hidden debt, or chronic deception applies a sudden, massive lateral force that the system was never designed to hold. A boundary violation detonates the entire reality and structural safety a person relies on to exist. The immediate sadness is entirely secondary to the collapse of the world you thought you knew. Psychologists classify this specific type of devastation as betrayal trauma. It is a severe psychological injury resulting from the breaking of a foundational attachment. Clinically, it registers as a major Class A trauma, putting the body through the exact neurological chaos as surviving a physical disaster or a war zone. The physiological blast radius is massive. The nervous system goes into shock. Hypervigilance takes over as the brain scans for threats and their worldview shatters into pieces. And hidden beneath that rubble is the most devastating casualty of all: the victim's total loss of self-trust. They are left haunted by a single agonizing question: how did I not see this coming? With the foundation turned to debris and both parties staring at the wreckage, the ultimate crisis emerges. Is the structure permanently condemned, or is there a way to rebuild? Before any reconstruction can begin, the betrayed partner must enter the assessment phase. This means ruthlessly auditing the betrayer's reaction to the collapse. Look at this cross-section. This is what regret looks like. Regret is a selfish, consequence-focused reaction. The betrayer minimizes the damage, patches it with cheap excuses, and tries to rush the victim to hurry up and move on so their own life can return to normal. Contrast that entirely with remorse. Remorse is empathetic and strictly focused on the impact to the victim. It requires the betrayer to dig out the rot entirely, offering immediate, non-defensive transparency about exactly what happened. Authentic remorse demands radical accountability. The betrayer has to prove, through exhaustive and consistent action, that the survival of the relationship matters far more than their own ego. Without that level of brutal honesty, any attempt to move forward is simply building a new house on a fatally compromised foundation. To understand how to actually lay a new foundation, we look to Dr. John Gottman. Gottman is a renowned psychological researcher who spent decades studying relationship stability. He engineered a strict clinical roadmap for reconstruction called the Trust Revival Method. Here is the first layer of that blueprint: atonement. In this stage, the betrayer must take radical, non-defensive responsibility for the collapse. Zero excuses, zero blame shifting. Next comes attunement. The couple must emotionally reconnect by facing the trauma head-on. The betrayer has to actively turn toward the partner's pain and triggers, deliberately choosing to absorb that anger instead of prioritizing their own shame. Finally, attachment. This is where physical and emotional reconnection is secured. The couple forges brand new, explicit boundaries, sealing the structure against future external threats. Esther Perel, a prominent psychotherapist and relationship expert, offers a crucial insight here. This phase requires couples to intentionally create entirely new, positive moments, rather than exhaustively trying to repair old memories that no longer exist. The genius of the Trust Revival Method is its allocation of labor. It shifts the heavy lifting off the victim's capacity to forgive and places the burden of repair entirely on the betrayer's structural labor. We have to confront a harsh reality here. Executing this blueprint is a grueling process. It is not a quick fix, and it certainly cannot be solved over a weekend retreat. Clinical data shows processing betrayal trauma requires 18 months to 3 years of behavioral consistency. The path is highly nonlinear. Sudden triggers will happen months or years later. These anxiety spikes are normal as the structure settles. The system stabilizes rather than crashing. True structural healing respects the nervous system's timeline. It demands patience long after the initial crisis has faded from the calendar. But here is the ultimate twist of the healing process. All of this grueling work isn't actually about saving the relationship.
The true objective is restoring the betrayed person's relationship with themselves. That requires physically moving the grief, anger, and shock out of the body, recognizing the pain as valid, and letting the nervous system stand down. The final necessary step for the betrayed is to drop the heavy, useless burden of self-blame. Only then can they learn to trust their own intuition again. A repaired relationship can never be the exact same relationship you had before the collapse, but with absolute accountability and exhaustive labor, you can build an entirely new, deeply resilient structure in its place.